evening, everybody. Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 149. Thank you for tuning in. I timed it perfectly. Ohio Speed Week heat races just concluded moments ago. So we'll get this done before the dash, so you don't miss any of Ohio Speed Week. I hope you guys are having a good start to your week. It's been 3 or 4 weeks since we've got to do one of those. Been busy traveling to different races and helping customers, and in the middle of speed weeks and doing a little bit of racing with Hudson as well. So today we're going to talk about keeping your program on track during the summer. We get lots of calls throughout summer and over the years of somebody had a great start to the season and the wheels are kind of starting to fall off. And it's happened to all of us. It's happened to the best teams in the business. And just a couple tips and tricks that I've learned and experienced to help minimize those downturns in performance throughout the summer, because it's pretty easy if you got a heavy plate of racing going on to get a little off track and lose exactly where you're at and where your baseline should be, etc. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions throughout pertaining to tonight's topic or anything racing related, fire away. More than happy to answer that for you. Again, we'll blow through this and answer all your questions and make sure that you can get tuned back into Flow Racing to watch the All-Star Dash and B-Main and feature tonight during Ohio Speed Week. So appreciate you spending a little bit of your Monday evening with us, and hopefully we'll make it fairly informative here for you. So the first thing we'll talk about will be the changing track conditions. So whether you are pavement racing, dirt racing, the track conditions change in the summer. So I remember when daylight savings time was changed here in Indiana, we didn't used to move our clocks, and now we do. So all of a sudden, it's light out till darn near 10 o'clock in July here. Well, that really took a beating on the dirt tracks. So get this out of the way here a little bit. So that really took a beating on the dirt tracks, and when that sun was just baking on it for so long, the tracks were drier, and there wasn't a whole lot that the promoters could do to keep moisture in the racetrack because the sun was just on it. It was hot. It was light out for an hour later every day than we were used to, and that was a big adjustment. On the asphalt side of things, most of the time when it gets really hot, tracks will lose grip. There is some scenarios where that isn't the case, but most of the time when it gets really hot and the oils start to come up in the asphalt, that becomes a challenge as well. So at that point, when we know hot laps in July, the track conditions are already going to be different than hot laps were in March or April, or different than they will be in September or October, our baseline is going to have to change. So how we would go to the racetrack, we're going to have to probably be a little bit tighter, more than likely, and that's just going to be a moving target. So that's something that we want to be really mindful of and take good notes of, is track conditions and how that setup pertain to that track condition. So on the asphalt pavement side, pretty easy. Track temp is a pretty sound way to take a note on what setup worked for a given track temperature. Dirt racing's a little more difficult. I love the notes feature in Pit Logic where you can take a picture, because being able to take a picture of that track, picture's worth 1,000 words, they say. So that's really helpful to be able to have a picture in your notes of what exactly the track looked like. And really, the old screwdriver in the ground is still a tried and true way of how much moisture is down deep in that racetrack. So changing track conditions is one thing. The next thing that often gets overlooked, and it's going to sound silly, but maintenance is not optional. So we all get into a routine of our weekly maintenance. Okay, so We race on Friday night, Saturday night. We race all weekend. What are we doing during the week between races? Well, we get in a routine of the same things we do every week. Well, as we start to get 15, 20 nights on our equipment, now there's some things that are going to be needed to be done in addition to. So whether that is a steering gear or pump that needs rebuilt, a rear end that needs rebuilt, a drive line that needs swapped out, fresh torsion bars, shocks need rebuilt, maybe the valve springs on the engine need replaced. Um, and that's just the race car side of things. By this point in the season, the oil needs changed on the generator, the truck needs serviced. All of those things start to add up, but we're really focused on the race car stuff. So, really analyze how many nights you have on some of these things. And if you started the season with 10 nights on your steering gear and now you've put another 20 on it, well, that's something that's going to need to be looked at. Or the same thing can be said again for your rear end or your drive line. Does the motor need to go back and get freshened? So, in addition to your weekly maintenance that you're doing, changing the oil and oil filter, and um, on the smaller cars, going through your chain and cleaning the car and greasing the bearings and doing all that stuff, after you start to get to summertime, there's some things that really need addressed, that need something in addition to. So that's something to keep in mind. And the last thing is complacency. So let's not get complacent with this was our setup and this really worked in the spring, or this worked really well in the fall last year, because we're in the dog days of summer, as they say. It's hot out, there's less moisture in the dirt tracks, the pavement tracks are hot and greasy, and let's really look at our setups. Did we have some good setups that worked well last summer? How does that vary from where our baseline is this summer? Those are things that we really need to look at. I've been going back through my notes of what did I do to Hudson's quarter midget last summer at certain tracks that worked really well. My baseline from last year has changed, and have I gotten a little off track? Am I getting all the speed? Do I have the best balance in the car? Should I revisit some of those setups that worked really well for me last year? Well, if the kids are the same size or your driver's the same size, and if the tires are the same, maybe we should revisit some of those setups if we're lacking a little speed or we can't find that balance. Sometimes a little bit of a reset and getting back to the home position is a great thing to do. Uh, Rick Remore, hello, how you doing? Anybody else that has questions, fire away. That's what we're here for, is to answer those tech questions for you, and have a little topic to discuss. Again, it's really easy to get off track, especially if you're in a division that has a speed week, where you're racing 5 or 6 nights in a row. If you're not running really good, it's fairly easy to go down a rabbit hole trying to find a solution and get really off track of where your baseline should be. So, and then if you're just even a weekend racer, that grind of, um, hot days at the track, hot nights in the garage when you get home from work, it seems a lot better to sit inside the AC or lounge in the pool and have a cold margarita than it does being in the 90-degree garage busting tires to get ready for the next race. So it's easy to get a little lackadaisical and overlook some of those things. So you want to be really mindful of that. And man, back when I was a younger kid and we traveled, on the Outlaw Tour as a mechanic, I would love working on the car at night. So after a race and you get to the car wash and you're done at the car wash and it's 1 or 2 in the morning, like, you're up, it's finally cooled off, the car's clean, let's run through all of our maintenance and do all the maintenance we can, and that way it's minimized and we're not out here for 4 or 5 hours in the sun before we got to go to another race. So I loved working at night, and then getting to bed at 5 or 6 in the morning and sleeping in the nice, cool, air-conditioned hotel room while your competitors were outside working in the heat, and you're getting to the track a little fresher. But that takes some planning and some organizing. Justin, when would you shift to more nose weight on a quarter midget? Great question. The main reason for adding nose weight is trying to help free the car up and get the thing to turn. So, um, a banked track like Mini Indy, Kalamazoo, London, Ohio, some of our bank tracks here in the Midwest, those are tracks where typically you don't need a lot of nose weight because the banking's going to help turn the car. But sometimes if you have too much rear weight at those cars, it's hard to find speed in the lower horsepower classes. So you might move a little bit of ballast forward to remove some rear weight, just to try to free the car up some, not so much help turnability. But those are the two times that I would add nose weight is um, flat, low grip track, trying to get it to turn, or trying to take some rear grip away. So it's always a balancing act. As you add more nose weight, the car's going to turn, but it also frees it up. So you might need to um, do something in conjunction with the nose weight. If you move the weight forward and it starts turning good, but now you're a little free on the right rear, you might need to make an additional adjustment, lower the rear pan hard, or move the wheel in a little bit to help tighten it up on entry. So, Jerry, Brickyard with all the cars and rubber, where would you put right rear spacing to start with, or just play with air? So, good question. So, Brickyard is a tough one, especially since we did not race on that track last year, right? Last year, Brickyard was on dirt. So, that parking lot is going to be dirtier than normal. They try to blow it off and do the best they can, but it's still a dirty parking lot. So, you're going to go out for your first practice and more than likely almost need a dirt setup on that car to go around and have any kind of speed. So, lower right rear air pressure and right front air pressure, and the right rear wheel tucked in, right? How you would go to almost dang near to a dirt track. By A mains, it'll have so much grip. If you shoved out like that, you'll flip over on the second or third lap. So as the track gets rubbered in, you'll start having to lower the car, lower the left side, put more tilt in it, scooch the right rear wheel out, go up on air pressure. Those are all things that you'll have to do. We talked about this in a previous episode, but I'll reiterate it here. Live and die by the stopwatch. So whatever class you're racing, if it's senior Honda, you're going to know what is a good time in senior Honda in practice. Time the cars in the heat race. How much has the track picked up? Time them through the lowers. How much is the track picking up? Because it's going to be really important. Like if you practice and you're one of the first classes to practice, and then your heat race 47, the gear you ran in practice won't work because the track. It's not uncommon for the track to pick up a half to 3/4 of a second throughout the course of the week as the track gets rubbered in. So that's what makes parking lot racing a challenge, and especially one that'll have as many cars as the Brickyard does. But great question. Dave, that's right. I don't even remember where that came from, but the 5 P's is prior preparation prevents poor performance. So the better you leave the shop, the better you're going to be at the racetrack. I always said the guys that make the least amount of changes are typically the most successful, right? If you get to the racetrack and you're making wholesale changes, shocks and springs and cross weight and ride height and torsion bars and wheel spacing, you might hit it every now and again, but typically it's going to be a really long event for you. The person who unloads with the best baseline setup and makes small fine-tune adjustments typically is the most successful. Flying Ryan. For those of you tuned in who don't know Flying Ryan, go to Flow Racing and watch his Gas City interview after he set quick time Friday night. You had to have sold some t-shirts after that interview. The crowd was laughing hysterically. I was laughing, and I hope you sold some dang t-shirts after that. I know it was a rain out, so people might not have got to the pits, but you definitely made some fans with that Victory Lane interview. Sharply. Oh, that's right. Matt Francis, the old Team Losi RC racer. That was his thing. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. So, anybody else have any questions before we jump back to Ohio Speed Week and hopefully watch a CSI car win the feature. We've been skunked so far in Ohio Speed Week. We've had a few podiums, but we're hoping to get a win here. I know Sunshine will be in the dash, and Eliason will be starting up near the front. I think he got second in his heat, so he'll be fifth or sixth row in the feature. So, nobody else has any questions? We are going to be at the Super Regional Mini Indy. We're busting out the factory support trailer for the Brickyard. You guys haven't seen that out as much as we would have liked, but with just being way behind here in the shop and trying to get customers their stuff as quickly and efficiently as we can, and the crazy prices to travel, we've been still hitting a bunch of races, just haven't been taking the trailer out. But after the Brickyard, the trailer will be going to Knoxville for the 360 and 410 Nationals. We're going to be camped out at our buddy John Randall's shop there, helping customers throughout those 10 days of racing. So we hope to see you guys at a racetrack here soon. And if you need anything in the meantime, you can always direct message me or shoot me an email, garrett@csishocks.com. The previous 148 episodes of Monday Morning Quarterback are all on our YouTube page. While you're there, please subscribe. We got a bunch of cool tech videos there, and we're trying to produce at least a tech video every other week since we're not doing tons of Monday Morning Quarterbacks. It just got really hard to do them every single week, but we're still going to do them once a month or so, and then we have those tech reviews that Tyler helps us do. So, Justin Lee, without discussing horsepower, what gives speed coming down the front stretch to the green? That would probably be a question for an engine builder, not a shock guy. Shocks we're trying to make grip around the whole racetrack, not necessarily just from a dead stop, because we're not drag racing. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm probably not going to be much help there. Gear ratio selection, if you don't want to discuss horsepower, gear ratio selection, and then, if we're talking big car stuff, how the thing's fueled. Setup-wise, if you're just setting your car, in my opinion, if you're just setting your car up to go from the exit of turn 4 to turn 1 on the initial start, there's probably going to be a lot of deficiencies in your setup, because you can take rebound out of your front shocks, and you can get the nose up and run softer bars or springs in the back to get some squat and get this massive launch coming out of turn 4. But that's not going to be an ideal setup to get through the corner when you get to the other end. So typically that's not something we focus on, is how to get from turn 4 down to the start finish line. Rick's correct, especially in the lower horsepower divisions. As free rolling as the car can be, eliminating friction, good bearings and everything being square and aligned will help with that. So, all right. I appreciate the questions. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a fantastic week, and good luck to you guys all racing this weekend. Take care.